On the night of August 31st, 1997, a black Mercedes S280 raced through the streets of Paris at dangerous speeds. Behind the wheel sat a 41-year-old man named Henri Paul. In the backseat were two of the most famous people in the world, Princess Diana and her boyfriend Dodi Fayed. What happened next would change history forever. At 12:23 a.m., the car slammed into the 13th pillar of the Pont de l'Alma tunnel at over 100 kilometers per hour. The impact was so violent that the engine was pushed into the passenger cabin. Princess Diana, the most beloved woman in the world, was dead. But here's the question nobody talks about. Who was Henri Paul? Was he just a drunk driver who made a terrible mistake? Or was there something much darker going on that night? Today, we're going to uncover the complete truth about the man blamed for killing Princess Diana. And what I'm about to tell you will shock you. Before we dive deep into this story, if you're interested in true stories, mysteries, and the secrets that powerful people don't want you to know, hit that subscribe button right now. We upload videos like this every single week. Also, turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next in this video. And here's a question for you. After watching this video, do you think Henri Paul was just a careless driver? Or do you believe there's more to this story? Drop your answer in the comments below. I read every single comment, and I want to know what you think about this case. Now, let's get into it. The man behind the wheel. To understand what really happened that night, we first need to understand who Henri Paul actually was. Henri Paul was not some random taxi driver or a careless chauffeur. He was actually a highly trained professional. Born on July 3, 1956, in Lorient, France, Henri Paul had an impressive career in security. He worked as the deputy head of security at the Ritz Paris, one of the most expensive and prestigious hotels in the entire world. This wasn't a job they gave to just anyone. The Ritz Paris is where billionaires, celebrities, and royalty stay when they visit France. Think about it for a second. This hotel trusted him with the security of the world's most important people. He had been working there for over a decade. His colleagues described him as professional, reliable, and extremely competent. Henri Paul was also a licensed pilot. Yes, you heard that right, he could fly airplanes. To become a pilot, you need to pass strict medical tests and prove that you're mentally and physically fit. This is not the profile of a reckless person. He earned a decent salary, drove a modest mini car, and lived alone in an apartment in Paris. By all accounts, he was a normal, hard-working man. So how did this professional security expert end up driving Princess Diana to her death? The night everything changed, on August 30th, 1997, Princess Diana and Dodi Fayed arrived at the Ritz Paris. They had been enjoying a summer romance, and the whole world was watching. Paparazzi followed them everywhere, and I mean everywhere. That evening, Henri Paul finished his shift at 7 p.m. and went home. His job for the day was done, or so he thought. Around 10 p.m., something unexpected happened. Henri Paul received a phone call asking him to return to the hotel. Why? Because Diana and Dodi needed to leave the hotel secretly, away from the dozens of photographers waiting outside. This is where things get interesting. The original plan was for Diana and Dodi to use a decoy car. Their regular driver and bodyguard would leave from the front entrance, drawing the paparazzi away. Meanwhile, Diana and Dodi would sneak out the back in a different car. But who would drive this second car? Henri Paul volunteered. Even though he wasn't a professional chauffeur, he offered to drive, and his bosses agreed. This decision would prove to be fatal. What happened in the tunnel at 12:20 a.m. on August 31st, 1997? The Mercedes S280 left the back entrance of the Ritz Paris. Inside were four people. Henri Paul driving, Trevor Rees-Jones' bodyguard in the front passenger seat, Dodi Fayed sitting behind Henri Paul, Princess Diana sitting behind Trevor. The moment they left, several paparazzi on motorcycles began following them. This was normal. Photographers had been chasing Diana for years. She was the most photographed woman in history. Henri Paul accelerated. He entered the Cours Albert I, then turned onto the Cours La Réunion. The Mercedes was going fast, very fast. At 12:23 a.m., the car entered the Pont de l'Alma tunnel. Witnesses later said the car was traveling at approximately 105 kilometers per hour in a zone where the speed limit was only 50 kilometers per hour. That's more than double the legal limit. Inside the tunnel, something went terribly wrong. The Mercedes clipped a white Fiat Uno, lost control, swerved across the road, and slammed directly into the 13th concrete pillar. The car then spun and hit the tunnel wall before coming to rest. The impact was catastrophic. Henri Paul was killed instantly. Dodi Fade was also killed instantly. Trevor Rees-Jones, the bodyguard, was severely injured but survived. He's the only survivor of this crash. Princess Diana was alive but badly injured. She died a few hours later at the hospital. The world woke up to the news that their beloved princess was gone. And immediately one question dominated every conversation: who was responsible? The official story: the French investigation was completed in 1999. Their conclusion was clear and direct. Henri Paul was drunk. According to the official report, Henri Paul had a blood alcohol level of 1.75 grams per liter. To put this in simple terms, the legal limit for driving in France is 0.5 grams per liter. Henri Paul had more than 3 times the legal limit in his blood. But that's not all. They also found traces of prescription drugs in his system, specifically an antidepressant called Prozac and a drug called Tiopridol, which is used to treat alcoholism. The conclusion seemed obvious. Henri Paul was an alcoholic who got behind the wheel while drunk and high on medication. He drove too fast, lost control, and killed 3 people. Case closed, right? Not so fast. The problems with the official story: here's where things get complicated. After the crash, investigators checked the security cameras at the Ritz Paris. They watched hours of footage showing Henri Paul that night. And here's what they saw. Henri Paul walked normally. He talked normally. He interacted with colleagues normally. He even bent down to tie his shoelace without any difficulty. Now, think about this carefully. If someone has 3 times the legal alcohol limit in their blood plus prescription drugs, would they be able to walk perfectly straight? Would they be able to have normal conversations? Would they be able to tie their shoes without falling over? Medical experts say no. Someone that intoxicated would show clear signs: slurred speech, unsteady walking, confusion. Henri Paul showed none of these signs. His family was devastated by the accusations. His father, Jean Paul, spent years fighting to clear his son's name. He insisted that Henri was not a heavy drinker and that something was very wrong with the blood test results. And here's another strange fact: the blood samples were reportedly mishandled. There were questions about whether the samples tested actually belonged to Henri Paul. The chain of custody was not properly documented. Were the blood samples even his? The conspiracy theories now. I want to be very clear here: I'm not saying any of these theories are true, but I think you should know what people have claimed over the years. Theory 1. Henri Paul was a spy. Some investigators claimed that Henri Paul had connections to intelligence agencies. They pointed to the fact that he had multiple bank accounts with large sums of money that didn't match his salary. Where did this money come from? In 2006, a British investigation called Operation Paget looked into these claims. They found that Henri Paul did have contact with French intelligence services, but this was apparently part of his job as head of security at a hotel that hosted VIPs. Theory 2. The crash was planned. Mohammed Al-Fayed, Dodi's father, spent millions of dollars trying to prove that his son and Diana were murdered. He believed that the British royal family ordered their deaths because they couldn't accept Diana marrying a Muslim man. He claimed the crash was orchestrated, and Henri Paul was either involved or was himself a victim of a larger plot. The British inquiry rejected these claims in 2008, but Mohammed Al-Fayed never accepted their conclusions. Theory 3. The white Fiat Uno. Remember, I mentioned that the Mercedes clipped a white Fiat Uno before crashing. That car was never officially found. The driver was never identified. Some people believe this car was deliberately placed in the tunnel to cause the crash. Others think the driver simply fled because they were scared. After years of investigation, French authorities identified a possible owner, a security guard named Levanthan, but he was never charged and he claimed he wasn't in the tunnel that night. The mystery of the white Fiat Uno remains unsolved. Henri Paul's final resting place. So where is Henri Paul now? Henri Paul is buried in a cemetery in Lorient, France's hometown. After the crash, his body was returned to his family. But his story didn't end with his burial. For years, his parents fought to clear his name. They believed their son was being used as a scapegoat, blamed for a tragedy, so that nobody would look deeper into what really happened. His mother, Henri Paul, said in interviews that she didn't recognize the person being described in the media. The Henri she knew was responsible, careful, and professional, not a reckless drunk. His father, Jean Paul, died in 2012, still believing his son was innocent. The legacy of blame. Here's the sad truth. Whether Henri Paul was guilty or innocent, his name is now permanently connected to one of the most tragic events of the 20th century. When people think of Princess Diana's death, they think of three things. The paparazzi who chased her the tunnel in Paris, drunk driver label, has followed Henri Paul beyond the grave. His family couldn't escape it. His friends couldn't escape it. His reputation was destroyed overnight. But should we accept the official story without question? Let's look at the facts one more time. Henri Paul showed no visible signs of intoxication on camera. The blood sample testing has been questioned by multiple experts. He was a trained professional with a spotless record. He voluntarily came back to work that night to help. Does this sound like a man planning to drive drunk? Or does it sound like a man who was in the wrong place at the wrong time and became the perfect person to blame when things went wrong? Who else was responsible? Let's be honest for a moment. Even if Henri Paul was drunk, was he the only one responsible for this tragedy? What about the paparazzi? 9 photographers on motorcycles were chasing the Mercedes that night. They surrounded the car at traffic lights. They revved their engines aggressively. They created a dangerous situation. Some of these photographers were actually arrested after the crash, but eventually all charges against them were dropped. What about the people who made the plan? It wasn't Henri Paul's idea to take the back exit. It wasn't his idea to use an unmarked car without a professional driver. These decisions were made by other people at the Ritz, yet Henri Paul is the one who takes all the blame. What about the seatbelts? Neither Diana nor Dodi was wearing a seatbelt. The bodyguard, Trevor Rees-Jones, was wearing his seatbelt and he survived. If Diana had been wearing her seatbelt, she might have survived too. Why don't we talk about this more? The truth is, multiple factors contributed to this tragedy. But it's easier to blame one person, especially a person who's dead and can't defend himself. What the survivors say: Trevor Rees-Jones, the only survivor of the crash, suffered severe injuries. His face had to be reconstructed through surgery. He has almost no memory of the crash due to his injuries. In his book, he wrote that he doesn't remember anything from the moment they left the hotel until he woke up in the hospital. He couldn't tell investigators what really happened in those final seconds. This means we only have witnesses from outside the car: the paparazzi, the other drivers in the tunnel. Nobody who was actually inside the Mercedes can tell us what went wrong. My conclusion after researching this case extensively: here's what I believe. The full truth about what happened that night might never be known. Was Henri Paul drunk? The official tests say yes, but there are legitimate questions about those tests. Was there a conspiracy to kill Princess Diana? Multiple investigations have found no evidence of this, but the investigations themselves have been criticized. What we do know for certain: Henri Paul drove too fast. This is confirmed by multiple witnesses. The car was being chased by paparazzi. This is confirmed by video evidence. Nobody in the backseat was wearing a seatbelt. This is confirmed by investigators. The white Fiat Uno was never found. This is a confirmed mystery. Everything else is speculation. The real tragedy isn't just the death of Princess Diana, Dodi Fade, and Henri Paul. The real tragedy is that 25+ years later, we're still arguing about what happened. Henri Paul's family never got closure. They spent their remaining years defending a dead man's reputation. Diana's sons, William and Harry, grew up without their mother because of decisions made in a few seconds, and the public still doesn't know the complete truth. So there you have it, the complete story of Henri Paul, the man blamed for killing Princess Diana. He was a professional security expert who made one decision that changed history. Whether he was drunk or sober, whether he was a scapegoat or truly responsible, one thing is certain. His life ended at 41 years old in a tunnel in Paris, and his name became synonymous with tragedy. Today, Henri Paul lies in a cemetery in Lorient, France. His grave is simple, his story is not. What do you think happened that night? Was Henri Paul guilty, or is there more to this story than we've been told? Let me know in the comments below. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. I'll see you in the next one.